All right, picture this. You're in a big meeting at work. Everyone's talking fast. Ideas are flying around. Suddenly, your boss turns to you. What do you think? Your heart races. Your mind goes blank. You open your mouth and words come out slowly, awkward, not quite what you meant. Your boss nods politely and moves on. And you're left red-faced, frustrated, asking yourself, why is this so hard? Sound familiar? Well, it doesn't have to be that way. Today, Izzy is going to share how he went from feeling lost and insecure to confidently using his English every single day at work, leading meetings, giving feedback, and expressing himself with clarity and confidence. Over the past 10 years, Izzy has taught English, worked in customer service, started his own business, and held various key roles here at RealLife. All of those in English. And the best part? He figured it all out mostly on his own. So if you have ever felt nervous, stuck, or like your English is holding you back professionally, then this episode is for you. Let's dive into episode 456 of the Real Life English Podcast. Joined here in the studio once again by the one and only Captain Immersion, aka Izzy. You ready?
Hey.
Ready for some fun? We're going to talk about work, but we're not going to have it be too boring.
No, work doesn't have to be boring either, right?
Okay, Izzy, so I thought we could kick this off I actually found a video while I was preparing for this lesson that I thought fit really well because we're talking about confidence at work. So I think having a short conversation just to start out about like what is confidence is helpful, right? Mm-hmm. All right, so I have this short, very, very short video from 𝗥𝗲𝗹𝗟𝗶. Let me roll the clip.
Confidence is something you can teach yourself. I learned it from the very, very strong people in my family that I looked up to, that showed me that it doesn't matter what your circumstances are, it matters how large your dreams are.
So what do you think about that, Izzy? Do you agree? Confidence is something you can teach yourself?
Well, you know me, like I'm a big start with why person. Starts by setting like your purpose, why you do what you do. And yeah, I don't know if like one can be confident without being purposeful so much, right? I would not believe really that's possible, at least in my case. The more purposeful I am, I think the more confident I am.
That's true. I think a lot of it too is just experience, right? So we're talking about how to be confident at work. I think a lot of that comes out of just generally the fact you've been working in English for 10 years. So you have some confidence. Obviously, it just comes out of like, okay, I know I can do this because I've been doing it for a long enough time, which anyone who's watching, you must have something that you're confident in. And it's probably because you have the experience, you know you can do it, right? So is there anything that you think that you do that most non-natives don't do at work that maybe lends to that confidence?
There is. So it's 3 important lessons from a decade of working in English. And I'm young, so a decade is like a lot for me. And yeah, these will help you go from feeling insecure to feeling confident and even like articulate in your speech, right? You're going to be able to use more words and express yourself more clearly, and just come across as somebody who really knows your thing, knows your shit, as we say, right? Because you do, right? That's the thing. It's like English is a tool for you to express yourself. Like you have your own knowledge about your field, and you need to be able to just be that same person, that same professional at that same level in English. So let's talk about it. The first lesson that I learned that I reflected on was that we need to ask questions, right? When you start a new job. So if we need to ask questions because we need to learn, why don't we make that a superpower instead of a liability, instead of a weakness, right? So that's the lesson that I've learned eventually, is like make asking questions a superpower. So that could be about a difficult word. I've had to do that so many times when I was starting, like so many technical words. Each new job was in a different field, right? First it was just teaching, then I went to customer service.
What does field mean in the context of work?
Field is an area of work, right? So like I'm talking about customer service is a field. There's maybe books and experts in that area. So it's a professional field, you could say, right? But even in science, there's fields too, like physics and chemistry. Those are fields in that regard. So yeah, nice. At each new job, I was in a different field. And yeah, that allowed me to always have so much to learn.
Technical jargon too that comes with each field, each type of work.
Exactly. So I'd find myself asking questions about jargon, technical words, but also about things that were being explained to me, either because I didn't understand it or just simply because you're just too complex. And I wouldn't shy away from asking, right, the questions. So
that's something I've noticed from you actually, is that I think that you're able to do that too unashamedly. So I think that a lot of that's kind of like what separates from most non-natives in the workplace, is that they feel like somehow it maybe eats away at like their credibility as a professional or something, if they're asking, what does that mean? Or that they seem like they don't know English if they have to ask, what does that mean? But actually it does show a sense of confidence, because it's like you're curious, you want to get better, and that's something that makes the best professionals are people who are really committed to learning.
It's vulnerability too, right? And like if you're starting at a new job and your manager knows you, they know your English level, what are you trying to hide, right? So just ask, and if they know exactly that also you mean to learn, like you're establishing that you're in this position also to master your communication skills, they can help you, and other people too. And then it will not come across as incapable, as we're saying, but rather there will be more trust. You'll feel more confident because there's nothing to hide. I think we feel insecure because we're hiding something oftentimes, right? So if you don't hide it, it's so much easier. And you don't need to ask immediately. There's two ways of doing this, by the way, right? You can ask later. You can just take note. And you don't have to ask the same person who said the difficult thing, the expression or explanation. You can ask somebody else, but it's better just to ask the same person if you trust them. And that's what I did. Like I was telling you about my experience and at the ski resort that I worked in the United States, that I worked at. And man, everything was new. I remember my first night working with the supervisor. I was selling tickets. Like there's a ticket window. Have you ever been to a ski resort like that? They have the ticket window, and there you go. Yeah, you're from Colorado, so you know. And this ski resort I think it still is the biggest in the United States that has night skiing, and they had like lights lighting up the entire mountain. It was crazy, and I was the only person on my first night doing it, like ticketing, like selling tickets. And it was really fast paced, long lines, and I had my supervisor by me, and everything was new. Like there's expressions about the software I was using, greeting people. I was familiar with connected speech, but still, like to have somebody say to me like, "Hey, how's it going?" It's like, what? Everything was new.
I think too, it can be really helpful in these situations if you can carry around a notepad or have a notepad app in your phone. So when you're asking these questions, you're getting the new expressions and so on, that you're actually cataloging them so you can study them later, right? Because ultimately it's great if you're asking questions, but if you're forgetting almost all of the new expressions that you're learning throughout the day, it's like, you don't want to be the person who's having to ask 3 times what the same expression means, right? So definitely having ways that you can study that. And of course, for all of you guys that are watching this lesson on the app, you have the flashcards. So like we're actually going to be publishing exclusive lesson next week just for app users, and we'll be sharing a bunch. I'm not sure exactly how many, but we have like more than a dozen really common work expressions that Izzy and I use probably almost every day.
It's more than 30,
we'll be teaching,
I think.
Yeah. And so you can study those with the flashcard and all the advanced expressions that we're using today. And that way they're in your long-term memory so that you're able to actually use those naturally and confidently at work. And you just seem like that person who knows their shit, as you said, when you're at work. So I highly recommend, if you guys haven't downloaded the app yet, you can do that by tapping the link down in the description below from your phone and get access to this premium lesson for free. I think something related to asking questions is like maybe you're learning outside of work. Hopefully you're like watching series or reading or like doing other things to buff up on to improve your English. And it reminds me of one of the people on our team who we work with, Mate, that he's really good at this, is that he'll deliberately look for opportunities in our meetings to try out a word that maybe he learned watching a TV series and so on. Like I had a meeting with him yesterday, and he brought kind of like an issue to me, and he was like, at the end, he's like, "I'm really glad we talked that out. Like, is that the right expression? Talk it out." And so I could confirm that. So I think that's a really great context to ask questions too, is if you're trying out a new expression you learned maybe outside of work and you're wanting to confirm like, okay, did I use that right? Or am I like throwing an expression out there that people maybe are nodding, but they didn't actually understand it?
That's actually it. It already starts to introduce, I would say, the next principle or the next lesson learned that I have after just investigating my work life. And that is what Mate is doing. He's turning his workplace into free English practice, as I'm calling it. Because it is like, okay, so definitely you can ask questions. That's great. But now if you are deliberately, intentionally looking for the opportunities to use your knowledge, to use the words that you're learning, then it's practice already. And it's free because your work is free, right? I mean, you get paid, obviously. But see, you're getting paid to practice. It's even better. And within your field, so you're improving like professionally. It's magic. Like, it just depends on the way you see it. Now, there's 3 ways you can practice, right? You can just type. So you can send text. You can send voice notes. So just record your own voice. Or you can jump on a call. So this could be a quick call or the longer meetings that you have already scheduled. And all of these are opportunities. Now, I wouldn't expect you to just immediately, if you're not feeling confident, for you to immediately start speaking too much, like so much in long meetings with lots of people, right? But these are gradually something that you can implement. Like, at first you just text more and you send more voice notes, and then quick calls with one-on-ones, just like one person. I have friends who they work in English, and I've asked them like, hey, how many meetings you have in a week? How often you speak with people, or how often you practice your English by actually speaking or typing? And they say like, not much. These are software developers, these people, these friends of mine, and they don't have to talk much. And they complain to me. They say to me, like, I was like, yeah, I haven't developed my English so much recently. Man, like, it's because you don't want to, right? Because you could be literally like every day you can text something, but you need to be deliberate about it. So you would be going from the mindset of avoiding exposing yourself to communicating more, so you can fail faster, improve faster. Kind of similar mindset from the first one.
I really like some of the different vocab and collocations used there, like jump on a call or to send a voice note. I'm not sure if everyone is familiar with some of these terms, but of course you guys can practice the flashcards on the app if you're watching it there. So did you have any experiences where you maybe started recognizing that this was really important to actually like start using that environment, the work environment, as a way to improve your English?
Yeah, I mean, this started early for me too. In my first job, at that point I was teaching English. I was teaching kids initially, but I had my coworkers, my teachers who I would work with. Some of them were Americans. After class I could just go home, right? But I wouldn't. I would just hang out. I would just talk about how you went, ask them about how their classes went. It's small talk, but it's useful, and you have the option. It's all about just having the option, right? So, but here I can give you examples that are more current to show you that this never ends. So, you and I, Ethan, we're talking about the idea of inviting Ksenia to join us for the lesson that we'll release next week exclusively on an app, the one with the workplace expressions, right? Because she was, for us, she was our game show host. It was really fun. And instead of just sending a quick text message to her, I sent a video because I know that was a lot to ask too. So on Slack, the software we use for communication, internal communication, you can just easily send a video. But if not, you can even use like WhatsApp or whatever, right? Whatever you use at work. And I just did that. And it was a video where I was explaining what she would do and then asking her if she could do that. And for me, that's a good practice. I need to practice. I'm not a native. So right? Portuguese is ingrained in my mind. It's my native language. So I need to continue practicing English, and this is how I do it.
Sometimes they're just kind of like flipping that switch, even of kind of like you need to like activate it even when you're at a high level of fluency and everything. Because sometimes if you haven't been speaking for a long time, it's kind of like you're tripping over your words, and you kind of need to warm up like any exercise. One thing it makes me think of is you said like you'd hang around after work. So there's lots of opportunities like this in most jobs, right? Like if you're working in person, which I know for probably like a lot of you guys that are listening, watching, that might not be the case for you, but some people still work in the office, right? Is maybe taking advantage of if you have like a cafeteria there and eating lunch, like trying to actually eat lunch with your colleagues, and you can use that as an excuse to, especially getting more like more mundane, more kind of like everyday sort of conversation stuff with people that doesn't necessarily have to do with work. And also like water cooler. This is like very classic, the water cooler, like the place where people go to drink water. So whatever place there is like a kitchen or something in your office where people tend to kind of gather and stuff, you know, for breaks, and just finding opportunities. You can also, it can be a good opportunity to just buff up on like your small talk, like introducing conversations, maybe not just about the weather, but maybe like observing something that you notice with other person, like if they're wearing a cool necklace or a cool shirt or, you know, whatever the case is, and like commenting on that. Or something we have like as a digital, we're remote, right? Something we have digitally is, it's actually inside of Slack. It's an app called Donut, which will set up basically one-on-one calls with different people to have like a 20-minute call that's more informal, right? So I think like here at RealLife English, for example, that can be a really great thing for people here to take advantage of, to be able to not only connect more with other people that they work with, but also just to have English practice at work. So I think just like looking for what are those opportunities. Some if you work at like a big company, there might even be like clubs or committees or like extracurriculars, like all these things that are all opportunities for you to get to practice your English in and outside of work.
Yeah. And when you don't, because oftentimes, as you were saying, you don't have the option, you can create your own opportunities. So you were talking about doing these things so this can buff up your small talk. By the way, what does that mean, to buff up your small talk?
Yeah, use that also like before to buff up in your English, just like to improve it.
So yeah, small talk is an area of English. There's vocabulary that's more specific to it, right? That maybe like greetings and just asking how the other person is doing. That you can exercise these by simply just being more curious about the people you work with. This is something that I can honestly be vulnerable here and just say that I learned more to do here at RealLife English, you know, because we don't work sitting next to each other. So we can just, it's very easy to just go about our day and not ask how you're doing, like to not even say hello, just start by saying whatever task you want to talk about or project. So when you start the conversation by, hey, how was your weekend? If you truly care.
Perfect Monday morning.
Exactly. It's really great. And it's right practice that you wouldn't get if you didn't decide to do it. It's an option.
Yeah, that's amazing. I think just you're killing two birds with one stone there for sure, just by building those relationships. Obviously, it's in your best interest to be connected with people you're working with, and at the same time, getting that English practice. I know like I had students who were living in the States and they wanted to improve their English for their job. And it was like something I said, like, you know, are you connecting with your colleagues? And usually it wasn't something they were doing. So it's exactly this point that they weren't taking advantage of those opportunities to get that kind of free English practice. So I'm curious, is there anything else that you would do, Izzy, or that you still do to this day to take advantage of that workplace environment to improve your English, to become more confident?
Definitely. I mean, the three ones that I highlighted, I think are the biggest. So the next principle that I've noticed, like I adopted, and that made my life so much easier as far as being more confident speaking English, is learning voraciously about your job in English. So again, it requires you to decide, I'm going to do this in English. Also, I'm going to learn, because maybe, you know, like if you're on your way back home, if you work in person, maybe you could listen to something that's just for like entertainment, or maybe not listen to anything. But what if you could just like listen to one thing that is both entertainment and useful, like for your job? So I can give you so many examples here. That's another thing that I think I started to develop more here at RealLife. Before, I think when I was teaching English like by myself or in the language school that I used to work at, I would watch some videos from other teachers, definitely. But I think it was here that I evolved that into podcasts and books and so many things that we learned together. But I wanted to ask you, Ethan, like, if this, I'm calling this principle, learn voraciously about your job in English. And by the way, the word voraciously we've explained that in another lesson. It means in this collocation of learn voraciously is like having a big appetite for learning. Voracious is actually literally about that. It's like if you're eating something literally voraciously, you're just like a lion, just like, wow, eating fast and a lot. But in this context, we're talking about knowledge, right? Consuming. And I wanted to ask you if you give me a random profession, so I can give you like off the top of my head some examples of things that you could do if you were in that field, in that profession, that you could learn voraciously with.
How about like a UX designer, user experience designer for an app?
It is very specific. So you're working in tech, right? UX designer, by the way, guys, like it's a designer of products, like a digital products, right? Or digital experiences, like an app or a website. Usually you have a user experience designer there. And it's a big area. I think it's a lot related with marketing too, and tech in general. So there are books that, Hacking Growth. Remember that one? We were reading it, I think last quarter.
Yeah.
So this is one about like not just product development, but everything like marketing. And I think there are books that it's not just about UX design that you could read, but about the people he will work with as well, like your whole departments. For example, we work in marketing, so we've read books about branding, we've read books about communication, about copywriting, and same thing here. So this is like a Hacking Growth, or you can read Continuous Discovery Habits, and there's podcasts too, like so many interesting podcasts, even like Tim Ferriss is one that we listen to a lot. He talks about technology too, and optimizing your life, optimizing your work. Newsletters maybe that you could sign up to. These are all things that we just need to be aware of what is out there. Again, the books, the YouTube channels, even Linus Tech Tips is one that I follow, and it's about computers and phones and new technologies. And you just like you consume that kind of stuff and you stay on top of what's new.
What does that mean to stay on top of something?
You are updated. You know what's going on. You know what's new.
Yeah, I think even beyond like the things that are necessarily related to your field, it can also just be like things that are related to being a better professional. Like I was just doing an interview the other day, and the candidate, she was telling me about that she read Hyperfocus by Chris Bailey, and it was interesting to connect with her around that because I actually read that a few years ago. But it was nice because she said that she had read that because she has noticed that she could be more organized in her work. So even though we're hiring for like a product marketer, right? So even though that's not specifically about product marketing or marketing at all, it's just about being more organized. Or like we've had several people here at RealLife English do the Google Project Management course, which is like a free online course for learning about how they do project management at Google, which is like, it's kind of like a meta skill, right? It's like that is good for anyone who has any sort of role in a company to be more organized. We've talked a lot about 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, or getting things done. Like, so all these are just like, how can you be a better, more organized human being, a more organized professional, and so on. That it's kind of like base skills. They're going to help you with everything else.
I know we're talking about so many different books and podcasts and titles of different things that you can find out there. But there's a reason for this. It's because, first of all, we truly consume these, right? And so we love these, and you got to develop a passion for these too. And when you do, it really helps with your English, because you're going to be, this is outside of work, by yourself. So because the other 2 principles I shared, it's more about when you are working. So you're asking questions, or you are looking for those opportunities for speaking, typing, for using your active communication skills, right? Well, this is easier in the sense that you could even be at home, or you could be sometime you're off, not really working, but just consuming something. And this is what it's going to give you, I think, the most input, the experience that you need to actually later, because it's really hard to, I think, just out of nowhere start using advanced words and advanced terms. Obviously, you can take note of the words that are coming up in meetings and stuff, but it would take longer if you're just relying on that to expand your vocabulary. So that's why we say, like, if you live your English by first identifying what's fun to you, what's already the things that you do in your own language. So we call it make fun, natural, convenient, right? Living your English. Great. And now also make it every day. That's the two aspects of live your English that we talk about. And this is what this principle here is, I'd say, referring to, because it's really difficult to, I think, be impactful in your job and to develop confidence if it's something that's really distant from what your life actually is, from your own personality, from what you do during your day. So insert this in your day.
You're also becoming the person, or like a reference in the company or the place that you work, someone that people look to, because it connects really well too with the other tips that we were talking about, because maybe you bring this as like a topic for conversation, like, oh, I'm reading this great book, and like sharing some of the things that you're learning and everything. And like that can wow people, right? It can impress them. So that will make you feel more confident because you're like someone who's bringing just like interesting things, and you're showing yourself as someone who's proactive, learning outside of work. But also it makes me think of, there's one guy on our team who's actually one of the developers of our app, Rodrigo, that we do like every 2 weeks, we do kind of like a review that we share with everyone on the team. And one of the things we do is share what we've been learning. And he has like his Rodrigo's AI corner. So he's so into AI, and he's kind of like being a reference on the team and like sharing things that he's learning. And that's incredible because like I've discovered so many things, and it helps me to stay up to date. You can be that person, right? For AI is like something super important, right? Because if you're not learning about that and using that as a partner in your work, you might be disrupted. So all of us should be learning about that. But it can be anything that you're fascinated about, is like be that person that people look to know more about this topic.
I just thought about this. Like, if you do this, then other people will come to you, as you're saying, and then practice. Like, your workplace being free English practice will be even easier to make that happen, because it won't be you just going to people. People will come to you. So these are synergistic, right? These three, they kind of feed off each other, and they support each other. These three principles, really, like, let's just think about it, just to wrap up the whole overview of the three big ideas. The first one is that we need to ask questions anyway, so might as well just make them our superpower. But if we take note of words and concepts and ideas that we're curious about and that we don't know what it means, that will probably show up also in a book or in a podcast that we can look into. So it doesn't need to end there. Once we ask, okay, okay, so this is what it means. Okay, great. How about listening to a podcast about that, right? Or just go on YouTube and look it up. And then once you learn, since your workplace is free English practice, you can talk about it with somebody. Maybe they give you an idea. Like maybe so watching a video will give you an idea of something to implement. And now you can go to your manager or peer and say, hey, check this out. What if we did this? You didn't have to do it, but you're being proactive. It's valuable for everyone, especially for you. So yeah, these are three big ideas are really powerful, I'd say, and that's what I have for you. And it's honestly what I share. Like the other day, I think a couple months ago, I was training a person on our team, exactly coaching him, helping develop his English. And these were the three things that I would talk most about. And every week we met to be like, hey, are you doing this thing? And I could notice that when he would share his own opinion in a meeting or something, that he would show some of the experience already, that he was learning in practicing here and there, kind of showing up in meeting. He was speaking up more.
Oh, yeah. Great, Izzy. Well, before we wrap up today's episode, I wanted to not neglect to give some love to one of our avid fans, one of our avid app users, voracious app user. You used that before. And so this week's shout out goes to 𝗥𝗲𝗹𝗟𝗶. Sorry if I mispronounced that. Do you want to do the honors of reading his 5-star review, Izzy?
All right, so Ibrahim said this. RealLife English is one of the best apps for learning real everyday English. The lessons are engaging and full of useful expressions that people actually use. The teachers speak clearly and with different accents, which really helps improving your listening and speaking skills. Highly recommend for anyone who wants to speak English more naturally and confidently. Ah, yeah, Ibrahim. And yeah, that's us, right? The teachers. I always forget, like, sometimes I read these, like, wow, these guys are really good. It's like, oh, yeah, it's me. Thank you. I really appreciate it.
Humble brag. And it's great too. Like, so many app users have told us that the app is helping them to improve their confidence, and that includes in work situations. So like, that's one of the, I think, applying the 3 lessons you gave us today, Izzy, is if you learn expression in the app and then you can use it at work, right? That's just a lot of app users have told us that it like gives them the best feeling inside when they can confidently use one of those new expressions they've been studying with the flashcards at work. So try it for free if you're not there yet by tapping the link down in the description below. And we look forward to seeing you over there and really hope that it also helps you to feel more confident and natural at work. All right, Izzy, Captain Immersion, thanks so much for joining me today. It's great picking your brain a bit, gleaming some expertise from your 10 years of working in English.
I appreciate it. This is a great opportunity for me to review it too. Now I think I'm more confident in sharing these with friends, with students, with anyone.
Something I admire a lot about you, because I have had very limited experience having to work in the languages that I speak fluently. Like I'm quite fluent, I think, for like everyday use, which I think a lot of people, it's actually the opposite. Like they're good with English at work, but then they don't have like the real life experience. So I'm glad I can get some of your advice about it. Maybe I can start applying that to my own languages. That said, remember that no matter what divides us, that which unites us, like wanting to speak English better at work, is far greater. 1, 2, 3. Yeah.
You've watched movies your whole life. They've made you laugh, they've made you cry, and maybe they've even changed a little bit of who you are. And yeah, it's no secret, movies can help you learn English too. But here's something you probably don't know. You're only scratching the surface with them. And by that I mean, you're just using about 10% of the total potential a movie has.